Hi all, this is Stephanie from Katori Freya on YouTube, and this is my November update. First off, I want to just see how everybody's doing. I hope everybody had a really good Thanksgiving, or if you didn't celebrate that, I hope you were able to at least spend time with your family and friends during that time off. Here in America, where we usually celebrate Thanksgiving. So it's been pretty busy, lately. I've been working on the quilt for Christmas, and I will have a little bit more of an update later on, but right now I'm going to focus on my knitting projects that are going on. But I'm a little less stressed than I was because of a quilting update. So I've been baking bread, finishing up a few things on my to-do list for knitting, and that way I've like stopped at a really good point where I can give you an update and tell you about like future projects and stuff. So without further ado, I think I'm also gonna take my glasses off. They've got a slight tint to them because they're transitions, but they're also kind of like catching the sunlight a little bit, and that might annoy you guys. So I'm going to take those off for right now. But we're going to start off with my finished projects that I have completed in this past month. Not a huge amount has gotten done because I have been working on other things, but I do have a few things to update you about. So the first one is the Nurmilintu shawl by Heidi. Alander, and that one, it's not blocked yet, but I have completely finished knitting everything. I've left some of the ends on it long, but they have been woven in. I'm just going to trim them after I've finished blocking them. But basically the last time you saw it, I think I was on this last blue color, but I still needed to do the last lace repeat and then bind off on it. So that is officially done. I'm going to go over the yarns really quickly, but if you want more detail on each of those different yarns, you can go back to my October update where I go into more depth about each of those different yarns, their compositions, how much you might get per skein, and that kind of thing. But let me see if I can stretch it out. It was quite fun. It's gotten me back in the mood to do shawls. I'm not really a shawl knitter. I like doing sweaters. But something about just like knitting this shawl was quite relaxing, so that's something I'll update you on later. But the first yarn in this is the Isola by Berroco. The second is Vivo, also by Berroco. All of these were from a yarn tasting that I did for the Berroco company through our local yarn shop. They were testing out different yarns. So a lot of them are Berroco. There's just one yarn that is not Berroco, and I'll get to that. The next one, this yellow right here, is the Pima Soft by Berroco. Then you've got this other yellow right here that has some like black flecks in it here and there, but it's different from this Pima right here. This one is the Meraki by Berroco. Then there is right here Sesame Summer as well, Berroco. And then right here, this thinner piece right here, in between the solid blue and the Sesame, is Spree by Berroco. And then this last larger bit of this shawl is Bamboo Cotton by King Cole. And that's the only yarn that wasn't Berroco in this whole entire shawl. But I'm happy to say this took about 50 grams. There are 50 grams for all of these smaller yarn tastings. It took all those out of my yarn stash and then took care of most of this skein of King Cole cotton, which I chose specifically to go with this during the yarn tasting because you won like a skein of yarn during the yarn tasting. So I did get some stuff out of my stash. Super soft, can't wait to block it, really fluff it out and show off the lace and everything. But there is this one that is done. Another thing that I was working on last time that we talked about was I was working on some everyday socks. The pattern is by Safiyyah Talley. And here they are. They were done on my little Chago needles, and they're tube knitting, so they're just basic socks. Knitted the full tube, separated that tube into the two different socks, and added either the cuff, the heel, or the toe with the afterthought heel technique. So this one is for a friend in England, and I think I used about 48 grams of this sock yarn. It is the West Yorkshire Spinners Signature 4-ply. It's a yarn that I got in England, so you can definitely find this in England. I don't know about the United States. You might have to buy it from like a specialty yarn store or have it shipped across, but had a super cute colorway for fall. And then I did decide to go with the vintage sock by Berroco for the heels and toes of the sock. And this one is, the vintage Berroco is 52% acrylic, 40% wool, and then 8% nylon. So I just wanted something a little bit more reinforced for the heels and the toes. The 4-ply by the Yorkshire Spinners is 75% wool and then 25% nylon. So I was also thinking of making her partner a pair of socks, and Jen was kind of really excited about the idea of having matching socks. I didn't know at the time if I would have enough of this signature 4-ply left to make her partner the same pair of socks. But basically I had a 100-gram ball of yarn. I used 48 grams of it. So I was like, okay, I think I can make her a matching pair, but her partner's feet are just slightly bigger. So what I did was I decided to use the vintage sock again for the heels and the toes. But with her partner's socks, I decided to use the vintage sock yarn for the cuffs as well, just to try and get as much as I could out of it. I also shortened the leg part by like ½ an inch just to make sure I would have enough to make socks for her. So I knitted these on my double point needles with a size 1. These were size 0s. You can kind of see this one's tighter knit, more uniform because it was on the Chago tiny circular sock needles, and these ones are on my double points. I think once I block them both, they'll even out and they'll look okay. But with your double point needles, you can definitely see kind of like the lines of where your needles were and stuff like that. And kind of was like a little wonky when I was adding on my heels and toes. They just like felt like they're kind of turning a little bit, even though I was like pretty sure I had my separation for my heels and my toes in like the right area and they weren't like stitches off from each other. It just does something new that I haven't tried really like noticed before. So I think blocking will make them look better. And like I said, I was worried that I wasn't gonna have enough, but I ended up having this little ball left. So I could have done the 0.5 extra on both of these socks. I just really didn't want to find out during the knitting process that I would have to rip back or go back and add on extra, like, you know, yardage or take it out because I just didn't have enough. So I have a little ball of just some extra yarn just for, I'm not sure if I'm going to start saving up my sock yarns and then maybe do like a scrappy shawl, or I also like to use, like if I have little bits of yarn left, I like to use them or stave them and use them a couple times to like hold my stitches while I'm working on socks, and that way I get some use out of them if they're not super long or anything. So I completed 2 socks, and the hilarious thing is that because I was working on my quilt with this first pair of socks for Jen, it took me about a month, like around 30 days or so, to do 1 pair of socks. And then I have this little notebook of like my socks that I do for everybody, and I try to write down like when I started and finished a pair of socks. And so those first socks I started on 10/15, and I finished them on 11.19. And then the second pair of socks that I had more free time to do, I started them 11.19 and I finished them on 11.27. So like 8 days. Took me 8 days to do the larger pair of socks just because I had more time. But they're also vanilla socks. So I will be blocking them. I am currently waiting for my new blockers to come. They're coming from a small company in Ukraine. So they're supposed to be showing up sometime soon. I ordered them about a month ago. The nice thing about the blockers that I ordered is that they're adjustable. So I can block to Jen size with this one, and then I can adjust the blockers and put some yarn through them to stabilize them, and then a block to the right size for her partner. So waiting on that, and then I'll show those off, or at least take a little clip of them before I send them across the pond to England. And also the nice thing about this is Jen has the cuffs of like the actual color work of our first yarn skein. And then her partner has the pumpkin colored cuffs. So that way when they wash them, because they're pretty similar in size, but not quite, Riga knows that this is her pair, and then Jen knows this is her pair. So not quite matching, but almost matching. I'd say close enough. So those are done. Just need to block them. And I think that's about it for my finished projects. So now we'll go on to our acquisitions. All right, so for my acquisitions, I actually have been pretty good. I haven't really bought anything. I did, however, subscribe. It's been like piquing my curiosity for like the last few months. I've seen it advertised on my social media, and I was just like, what is this thing? So I subscribed to the Annie's Love to Knit Socks Kit Club. So like Annie's is this company that creates all these different like monthly projects. So like you could do crochet, knitting. I think there's even stuff for like felting, sewing, stuff like that. And so they were advertising the sock club to me. And so I was like, what is this? And is this worth it? So the first month, they do a small discount. So instead of it being like 30 something dollars, it was more like $17 to sign up. And so what they do is they send you a skein of yarn, a pattern to use that skein of yarn with, and then they also have more like knitting resources on their website. So you would like log into your account, and then they will have like knitting tutorials in case you're getting stuck on like the pattern that they've provided you with. So they have some support there. I haven't looked online to see that yet because they sent me, so this is the yarn that I got for this month of acquisitions. They sent me a nice, it's super nice and soft skein of sock yarn. It's by Shirsty Cat Designs by Kelly Straub. And I did look her up really quick just to see if she was like an independent dyer and stuff. And she does have her own website with her own socks, like sock yarn and other bases and stuff. So like I think they get yarn from somebody that's like hand dyed, and then they create a pattern to go with that yarn. So yeah, this is the first one that I got. It is in her Just Sock base. So that is a 75% superwash merino and a 25% nylon. And the colorway is Amorphous. But it's this crazy fun colorway. So that was exciting. But then they sent me for the pattern to go with that sock. And it is, because you can see this is the exact, you know, slight variation, but this is the skein that they created, like this sock pattern is created for. But as you can see, it says simple sweet sock, and it is a like vanilla sock. It's a very simple pattern. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do this pattern, but I am planning to make socks with these. I am going to touch on that in my next section. So now I think that's about it for acquisitions. So soft, super soft, like it. I will be using it, but that's the only thing that I've brought in so far this month, which is good because I'm trying to stash bust, and with my new projects that I have lined up, I think there will be a little bit of stash busting, which is good. So going on to future projects. So now for my future projects. Last time that we talked, I mentioned a few different patterns that I thought I was going to do. And yes, I have decided to finally cast on the Nakia Infinity Scarf by Jeff Giles. So like I said, I was talking about how this has been on my queue for years now. I even had yarn for it. So I went back into my stash and kind of looked over it again. And so for this project, I'm like gonna read it from my tablet, but I have most of the bases that they call for this pattern. But I have had to add in some substitutes and stuff just to like make it work. And also the colorways are different because I think I looked for the colorways back when this was published, and like pretty much all of them have been bought out. It was very popular. So for the Nakia Infinity Scarf that I'm going to be casting on soon, because I just finished everything that I had knit-wise, still on the needles, which were the socks last. For this one, it calls for Madelinetosh, Tosh Merino Light. There's a total of, I think, 2 skeins of those. There was also another Madelinetosh base. I think it was called Dandelion, which was a mixture of linen, flax, and merino. I did not get that. I got another colorway in the Tosh Merino Light for that to replace that. It also called for a skein of Malabrigo Mechita yarn base. So I do have one of those, and I do actually have it in the correct colorway. And then the last yarn that it called for in this Infinity Scarf is the Silk Garden by Noro yarns. That one, when I looked through my stash, I remember buying the yarn, and the thing was, I think back when I bought it years ago, was I had bought one skein and I was hoping that that same colorway would come back into stock again, but then it was discontinued. So I literally had one skein of this Silk Garden that I needed. So this is where I'm going to have to be a little thrifty, but you know, I luckily have something in my stash that I think will work with this scrappy Infinity Scarf. So I'm going to be getting quite a bit out of my stash. So without further ado, I have, let's see, this is a different colorway. It is the Madelinetosh Light, Merino Light. I believe this is the replacement for the Dandelion yarn that originally was going to be in the scarf. This is the Mooreland colorway, and it's just 100% merino wool. It's not super wash, and it's a fingering weight. So it's a dark green, kind of fun. So I have one of these, which is replacing that flax, like linen wool mixture. And there's this one. And then for my other 2 merino Tosh lights that I have from Madelinetosh, I have this Plaid Blanket colorway 202. And it's got coppers, grays, greens, and like blue greens in it. And so that's the one that I actually was able to get 2 of. So I have 2 of these colors to like replace the colorway that I couldn't get for the Tosh light for that one. Like it's very similar. Like it's not going to be the exact same colors as what is shown for the Nakia scarf, but it's like same family, same kind of general color of this scarf. For the Malabrigo, I did get the correct colorway for that one that I needed. This is the Mechita base, and it's Hojas? Hojas? Don't know if I'm pronouncing those right. I apologize. But I do have the one skein of that. Also greens with some blues. Nice and fun. The Silk Garden, the one color that I was able to get, this is long since like discontinued, but it was color number 430. But you can see it's got greens and blues in it, so it'll go with those colors. And then because I was only able to get one skein of these and I needed 4 of these, that's where I'm coming in and getting thrifty. I have this, let's see. What I had in my stash was, again, Berroco yarn. So this is the Millefiori Light. So instead of it being a DK, it's more like a sport weight, so it's closer to the fingerings here. So it's going to be mostly like a fingering to sport weight scarf with like one little small chunky Aran weight area from the Silk Garden from the Noro. But as you can see, it has blues and greens, some grays, and I feel like in some of these I saw a little bit of brown in it. So I think it will go with the other yarn that I have for this project, but I have 4 skeins of these. Originally I was going to make a sweater with this, but I never got around to it, and I can't even remember what sweater pattern I was planning to use with this. But I think this will go a lot better in the infinity scarf, so I'll be able to get some of these out of my stash. So literally these what is it? 7 skeins have been sitting in my stash for years, and I am planning to do the infinity scarf with them. I think it's going to be fun because I think I'll be trying new techniques and new patterns I've never really tried before. There's some lace knitting in there, so it should keep me interested, you know, but overall it's kind of hard to see. I think they'll go together all right. I think it will be fun and scrappy, and yeah, so that's what I'm planning to cast on next. And I might even have 2 cast-ons going because the other plan that I have for future projects involves this skein. I know it just came in. It's like one of the most recent things in. I should be getting rid of some other stuff in my stash first. But this comes every month. So very soon in December, the next skein will come with the next pattern. So for this one, instead of doing that Simply Sweet pattern that they sent me to do in this yarn, I am going to use the Watts Socks by Crazy Sock Lady Designs. I'm going to be using that with this. I think I've noticed different people using different heels and toes, whatever they prefer to make this. So I am going to be kind of knitting it like how my 2 socks in 1 goes. Sorry about that. My oven was beeping at me because I'm baking sourdough bread relatively soon and it was getting to the correct temperature. I was also letting my sourdough rise a little bit more. Let me see, where was I? But yeah, so I'm going to be using probably the Afterthought heel and toe for it just because that's what I know right now. And that's pretty simple. So, but I will be probably knitting them on my double point needles and just 1 sock at a time, finish it and then do the next sock. So that's my next plan for socks. Just try and get this one out of the way, and then if this gets done relatively fast, I'll cast something else on. But I think my main focus for knitting right now is going to be the Nakia infinity scarf and see how that goes. So I need to wind these skeins into balls and get that ready to go. But that's about it for my knitting update. Right now with the quilting is I have officially finished the top for the quilt. I have like a picture right up here. As you can see, is me laying out just like the interior of that quilt. So I got all the blocks done, sewed them together. I don't have a picture with the skinnier border and larger border around this piece because, as you can see, it took up pretty much almost my whole entire parents' living room floor. So I don't have a picture of like the whole entire top completed. But right now it is currently at the quilters. The backing that I chose for this quilt was supposed to be 108 wide backing. I washed it and apparently it shrunk 10 inches. So, which was kind of lucky that I had bought extra yardage for my border fabric. So I was like, all right, I have enough of this extra border fabric. I might buy just a little bit more to go on the back and add extra yardage to the top and bottom to make sure I had enough for the backing of the fabric because it shrunk. Like, I took it to the quilter and he's like, this is 98 inches. This isn't going to fit your quilt. And I was like, are you kidding me? Because I bought 108. It was listed as 108. And like, you know, I sent the message to like the person I bought it from. She measured her end of her stuff and she said it's 108. So somehow, even though I washed it in cold water and like delicately tumbled it, it shrunk 10 inches. So she's gonna have a talk with the manufacturer about that. I sent pictures to her of like me measuring it. So yeah, luckily my quilter wasn't quite ready to start quilting it yet, so I took the backing home, added those extra bores on the top and bottom to make sure that the picture was going the right way for the backing, and then also I had enough length for the whole entire quilt. So I have dropped that off. He's hoping to have it quilted for me by this coming Wednesday, but you know, even if it's a couple more days than that, that is absolutely fine, because then all I have to do is go get some binding fabric and get the binding on and stitch that. And I plan to have a nice cozy weekend with my sister where I can just, you know, after I've sewn on that top part, I can hand bind and stitch that binding all the way around that king size quilt to complete it. And we'll probably just have like a couple crazy movie days of me just sitting there and hand stitching. But pretty much like that extreme like stressor is off of my shoulders, so now I have more time to knit and do these things, and I'm excited to start the shawl. I'm usually not a shawl person, but I am super excited to knit the shawl. It also got me going for that because I did see the new Wakanda Forever movie. I enjoyed it. It was good. I think it was a very tasteful and respectful way to like send off Chadwick Boseman, the last Black Panther. You know, there's a lot of feelings in that movie, and it was such a really nice, respectful way of like paying homage to him and like everything that he's done. So if you haven't seen it, I would suggest seeing it. You know, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I thought they did really well compared to like more of some of the more recent Marvel movies. I think it's one of the better ones out right now. So that's just gotten me more excited to do Nakia's Infinity Scarf, because she's just, I love that, her character. She's like wonderful. And Lupita Nyong, I think, the one that plays her, the woman that plays her, she's just like extremely talented and wonderful. And so like I'm just super excited to like knit something that she kind of like the design that she wore for the first movie. So anyway, that's my little spiel. I hope you guys all aren't going crazy trying to like finish projects for Christmas or the winter holidays, whatever you celebrate. So hopefully you guys are staying safe, staying stress-free. Let me know what you guys are working on, and I hope to see you guys in the near future with the December update. As always, take care and happy crafting.